Hi everyone! It is Thursday again and it's 5:30, so that means it's time for me to say hey, olá, tudo bem com vocês? And have another Portuguese lesson with you guys. It's always lovely to see so many of you saying hi and chatting. So, as always, let me know that you can all hear me. Let me know where you're tuning in from today. I love it every time there's somebody new from somewhere different. And obviously, I also love it when the same people keep coming back because that's a really nice feeling for me that you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, it's been an exciting week because I hit 700 subscribers today on YouTube. Which is really cool because I only started posting a weekly video 7 weeks ago and I had 176 subscribers when I started. So to have got to 700 subscribers so quickly is really, really cool, and it shows me that you guys are enjoying the content. So, as always, if you have ideas or if you have questions about what I could cover in my quickfire Portuguese lessons, I would love to hear that as well. Make sure you put that in the chat box during this time and I will see what I can do. Hopefully in the next less than 2 weeks, we're actually going to be allowed out of the house and I'm going to be able to film some more dialogues actually out in practical situations, because I think people really enjoyed those, like when I did the cafe and when I went to the hairdressers. So I'm really hoping it's not too long now. They've said another 10 days maybe, and we'll be able to start to do things a bit more normally here in Portugal, because I definitely struggled with lockdown this week. It's been 7 weeks now, so I really started to struggle with that, but fingers crossed, it's nearly over. So let's take a look and see who we've got. Perfeito, consigo ouvir, excellent. Oh, someone's got an idea of having conversations with a delivery person. That is a really good idea, actually, especially at the moment where they're not allowed to come in the house. I've had, people really struggling with, the breakdown of communications when they're shouting up, you have to come down, and the person doesn't understand that that's what they need to do. So yeah, I'm going to write that down. Delivery person, courier. Yeah, good idea. Cool. And then there was one thing I wanted to share with you as well today. So people are always asking me about watching TV in Portugal, right? Because the combination that people want is to be able to hear Portuguese audio, but also have Portuguese subtitles at the same time. Now, this is really, really difficult to come by. But if you are already in Portugal, if you're a beginner especially, I wouldn't focus on Portuguese audio. That's great to kind of just absorb as much as you can, like listening to the radio and making sure that your ears are switched on whenever you're out and about. But in terms of actually sitting down and watching a TV programme, if you're at the beginning of your Portuguese learning journey, don't dismiss just having Portuguese subtitles on English audio. And one of the best ways to do that, if you are already in Portugal, is just to watch Portuguese TV, because they have so many American, Australian, English shows that are then subtitled. So today I switched on the TV while I was eating lunch and I found myself sucked into Love Island, which I never watch. But actually reality TV is brilliant to watch with Portuguese subtitles because everybody speaks in such a colloquial way. And you will pick up some really cool, good phrases by seeing them written down. And so I just suddenly got fascinated, by the way that these people were talking in English, but by reading the Portuguese subtitles and picking up some colloquial phrases. So I wanted to suggest that some of you have a go at that. And obviously with reality TV, you can choose something that you're interested in. So if you're interested in cookery, maybe, watch MasterChef. Or if you are interested in, home design, you can, watch one of the home makeover shows. I think that it's a fun way to practice your reading and boost your vocabulary, even if you can't get the Portuguese audio and Portuguese subtitles. So that's just something that happened to me today that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so this book is also something I wanted to share with you that I've been meaning to share since somebody asked the question about where can I find a list of verbs that come with a preposition, because way back in the first lesson we were looking at how easy it is to confuse which preposition goes with which verb. And I remembered that I have this book which basically acts like a dictionary for verbs, and it will tell you the preposition that comes after it in different scenarios. Okay, so you could, if you're looking for the verb, for example, preocupar, and you want to know preocuparse, and you want to know which preposition has to go with that, it gives you the options and how they apply in different contexts in this book. So it's called Guia Prático de Verbos com Preposições by Elena Ventura and Manuela Caseiro, and I just bought this in FNAC. I think it was about €10. So I wanted to share that with you as a tip for mastering those pesky verbs that come with prepositions. Okay, so I'm gonna open the PowerPoint that I was going to show, but obviously it's the software I have doesn't seem to really want to show PowerPoint, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to work with my beautiful whiteboard that I got out last week. Okay, so we're going to start with some pronunciation stuff, because as you know, I think pronunciation is your real gateway to being understood better and actually understanding what's being said to you as well. So I wanted to talk about the letter S. It feels like Sesame Street. Do you remember Sesame Street? And it was like, today's episode has been brought to you by the letter S. So that's what we're going to look at today. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, I already know how to say S. That's easy. But there's actually 4 options of how we pronounce an S in a word. 2 of them people tend to get right, and 2 of them people tend to completely forget. So I want to just draw your attention to those 2 today. Alright, so we're looking at the letter S. So sometimes it's just a straightforward S sound when we see a double S, okay? So this would be passo. Or if we were saying may I, this would be posso. So that's super easy. If we see a double S, it's going to be a S. That's one of the easy ones. The other easy one is when we see an S at the end of a word, and that's where we start to get this sh sound, okay? So nice and easy rule. If you see a word that ends in an S, I need to give it a sh. So this is todos. Todos. And remember, these words that end in an O make an U. Todos. Okay? So those are the ones you knew. What about when we see a word like this? Okay? So we've got an S coming before a consonant. Now this is the one that people forget. We need to make this a sh as well. Okay, so fresco. This would be fresco, which means fresh. So you'll often ask this one when you need, when you're asking for some water. So you'll say uma água por favor, and they might say fresco ou natural. Fresco. Well, água is fresca, but yes, fresco. So don't forget, it's not always at the end of a word. Then S needs to be a sh. Sometimes it can be in the middle as well. So, another one that people forget is when I see an S in between 2 vowels. Okay? What do I need to do here? This is no longer an S. It's now a Z. Z. So this is piso. People, especially Spanish speakers, forget this one because a lot of words are similar in Spanish to in Portuguese. So they might say casa. I want casa. Z, z, casa. Okay, this is what's going to make you sound much more Portuguese when we have this Z in between 2 vowels. what's interesting about this is that rule applies even when the S is in between two vowels, but it's in two separate words, okay? So if we look at the word, for example, boish, which is one of those filler words where you're like, well, like, yeah, it's poish, poish, yeah, with a sh, because this is the end. However, if we put it next to e, and we now have poise, poise, this S changes from a sh to a z. Why? Because it's in between two vowels, even though that's split up between two words. So this goes from poish to poise, same as if we were to have the phrase mais alguma coisa. Okay? Just on its own, this word would be mais. Mais. But if it's in between two vowels, even if it's different words, it becomes mais alguma coisa, because all of those sounds run on to each other. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's another thing to watch out for when we're pronouncing S. The last one is also something that people forget when they're pronouncing S. Now, this is a sound we don't have in English, and it's represented by this symbol in the phonetic alphabet, and it's a j sound, j, j. So you probably know that we use this when we say the letter J. So, for example, the word janela. Sometimes this is how an S sounds as well. Think about how we say Lisboa, yeah? It's not Lisboa with a sh, and it's not Lisboa, it's Lisboa, okay? So try making that with your mouth. It's like a crinkled up tongue, j, 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 at the front of your mouth, j. So Lisboa, okay? So that would also apply, for example, to the word mesmo, mesmo, okay? So there are less of these words, but you need to look out for them. And again, the question is, well, how do I know? you don't know. But the question is, you need to listen out for it and then remember it once you've heard it, right? So as long as you're aware that sometimes an S can make this j sound, then it will be much easier to copy it when you're saying these words, for example. Okay, so that was the pronunciation section. Don't forget that I do have a free pronunciation download for you guys that I will make sure that I put in the chat before we finish, so that if you need extra help with your European Portuguese pronunciation, then you can download that and check it out. Alright, question. What about todos os alunos? Todos os alunos. Todos os alunos. Todos os alunos. Yeah, it should be when you. The idea is that when these sounds run on from each other, it's not as easy to make that sh sound if you're following it by a vowel. So naturally, when we speak, that's how they're going to run onto each other. And someone else has mentioned here, it's the same with mais ou menos. Yeah, exactly. So mais ou menos. It's really hard to say that when you're running an S onto a vowel. So that's why we say mais ou menos. Exatamente. Muito bem. Okay. The next thing I wanted to draw your attention to is another common mistake that people make when they're talking in the past, okay? So, when we speak in English, we would say something like, I have been, I have done, I have seen, etc. So our thought process in our head is to take, okay, we want to take the verb ter. So if you want to say, it has changed, for example, you would want to say, okay, well, I want to take the verb to have and say it has, which is tem. And then you think, okay, I'm going to take the verb and make it the past participle. So if the verb was mudar, you would apply the rules to make the infinitive a past participle by going from mudar to mudado, okay? And people think that this means it has changed. Tem mudado, because that's a literal translation of what we would say in English, right? It has changed. However, that is not what this means, okay? This is actually a different tense in Portuguese, okay? What it means when we use the present of ter, to have, and the past participle, what this means in Portuguese is it has been changing, okay? So it's a different sense that we're getting here about what is happening. So usually this type of sentence is used with the word lately or recently, okay? Recently it has been changing, okay? So for example, if I were to say, put ter as I have, tenho, and then the past participle of seen, visto. This doesn't mean I have seen. It means I have been seeing, okay? So, for example, recentemente tenho visto a minha irmã muito. So, recently I've been seeing my sister a lot, okay? So instead of I have seen, this means I have been seeing. Or tenho feito. It doesn't mean I have done, it means I have been doing. Okay? So, how would we say then it has changed, which is what we wanted to say at the beginning, it has changed. We would just use the preterite, okay? We would just use the past tense that describes actions that are short and completed, okay? So if I want to say it has changed, I would say mudou. So this actually what we would think, so many sirens here, you can tell I live in central Lisbon, can't you? We would think this just means it changed, yeah? But in Portuguese it also has this meaning of it has changed, okay? Mudou, it changed. So that is one to look out for, because this is a really common mistake that I see people make a lot. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to mention was how useful it is to use this little word. And the word is name. Name. Okay, so we need to have a nice nasal sound when we say name, because as we've seen many times, a word that ends in an M tells me that I have to nasalize the vowel that goes before it. So this isn't nem, it's name, okay? And you can use this to mean neither and nor. That's how we're usually taught it. But it's also really useful to put in front of other words to say things like, I didn't even know, or don't even think about it, okay? So it's kind of like an emphasis, but in the negative, okay? So let's have a look at a couple of moments when we could use this and see if you know what these mean, okay? So, nem pensar. Nem pensar. What does this mean? Well, don't even think about it. So this is a really good phrase to come out with when somebody suggests something that you really don't want to do or you really don't agree with it. You can say, oh, nem pensar. Don't even think about it, okay? Another one could be, nem sabia. Nem sabia. I didn't even know. Okay? Oh, I didn't even know. Nem sabia. Another one could be nem. Oh, no, it should be an E, not an A. Nem. Nem reparei. Nem reparei. So the verb reparar is to notice. So if you would say nem reparei, I didn't even notice. Okay? So reparei, I noticed. Nem reparei, I didn't even notice. So it's just a tiny little word that you can use in lots of different situations to really express an emphasis of the negative. I didn't even or don't even. Okay? Pretty useful. All right. Who's got more questions? Oh no, no more questions just yet. Cool. So, somebody last week asked if we could have a bit more of a look at the subjunctive. Oh, the subjunctive. Everyone hates the subjunctive. Yes, I hate it too. But it's used a lot, so it is really important to take a look at it and know how it works. So last week when I was talking about being polite, I was mentioning that polite commands use the same form as the subjunctive, okay? So how do we formulate it? Let's take the verb falar, for example. Can you see if I write this? Yeah, okay. Falo. Falos. This is just the normal present, yeah, that we're used to. Fala. Falamos. Falam. Yeah, okay. So that's nice and normal. That's what we're used to. That's how we formulate the straightforward present tense. Not fallish. I got too excited about doing the subjunctive. Fallish. Okay, great. So what I was saying to you last week was that to make these into the subjunctive, if it's an AR verb, I'm going to put E's where the A's are. And then the opposite. If it's an ER verb, I'm going to put A's where the E's were. So let's just do that with this one. So falo would become fale, falish, fale, falemos, falem. Okay, so now we can see that this is how we would form the subjunctive. Seems pretty straightforward when we're using regular verbs and we're just doing this exercise of changing it from one to the other. But what I wanted to just talk you through today was some of the different situations when you might use the subjunctive. So rather than worrying about, going off and using it, I always say to my students, the first step is just understanding when it happens and recognising it. Because once you get that far, you'll be able to start copying it yourself. Okay, so the way I was always taught this, and it's quite handy, it doesn't cover all of the situations that you would use the subjunctive, but everybody loves a mnemonic in language learning, don't they? So here is the mnemonic I was taught to remember when to use the subjunctive, okay? And it's called, and the mnemonic is weird. And so, when am I going to use a subjunctive? I'm going to use it for wishes, emotions or feelings. I'm going to use it for the imperative, which means giving people orders, which is what we were talking about last week. We're going to use it for requests. That's what the R stands for. And we're going to use it for doubts, when we're doubting something. Now, this is the one, the D is the most common one, right? So whenever you see a subjunctive sentence, it's usually because the outcome isn't clear yet what's going to happen. It's just a possibility, it's not certain, it's almost hypothetical, okay? So this is usually the moments when we would use a subjunctive. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk through each of these and give you an example of how we would use the subjunctive in these situations, okay? Wishes, emotions, imperative, requests and doubts. All right, so we'll start with a wish, a wishing sentence. So let me just bring it up here. So a wish, an example of a wish would be tomara que dê certo. Okay? Tomara que is the part that means I wish or I hope that. Dar certo is to go right or to go well. So if I was saying, oh, I'm going to do my first YouTube live, I hope it goes okay, I hope it goes well, okay? So that's a wish that I want to happen, but again, it's not guaranteed that it will happen. We don't know what the outcome is yet, so we would use the subjunctive, okay? So this is the verb dar, which is an AR verb, so you can see it's an irregular one, but it's in the E now at the end instead of an A. So, tomara que dê certo, so this is dar in the subjunctive. I hope it goes well, okay? So there's the first example for you. The next one was emotions, right? Yeah. Emotions. So how about this one? Lamento que não seja mais fácil. Lamento que não seja mais fácil. So, here is ser in the subjunctive, and this means I'm sorry that it's not more easy. So I'm sorry it's not easier. I'm sorry the subjunctive isn't easier. So this is an emotion that I'm feeling. I'm sorry that it's not easier. Okay? And again, this que is always a really good giveaway that the subjunctive needs to be used. Okay? And in this sense, it's because I'm expressing a feeling. I'm sorry that it's not easier. Okay, so the next one is the one that we saw last week, and that's the imperative. The imperative is the tense when we're giving somebody orders. So the example that we had last week was fique em casa, stay at home, yeah? So ficar is an AR verb, here it's ending in an instead, fique em casa. So that's the one that we looked at last week. Finally, we're through to requests. A request. So, for example, quero que o faças. Quero que o faças. Here again we've got the que, which is a giveaway. We're going to need to use the subjunctive. Here we've got the verb fazer in the subjunctive, okay? So instead of an E at the end of this, we've got an A because fazer is an ER verb, so we know that it needs to be an AR verb, but of course this one is an irregular one. So, quero que o faças, I want you to do it. I want you to do it, okay? And that covers the request. And then last but not least, an example of how it would look if it was a doubt. So, for example, duvido que consigas. Which isn't a very nice thing to say to somebody, but duvido que consigas. I doubt that you'll be able to, okay? So here is the verb conseguir in the subjunctive. So again, conseguir, IR verb, but now it has an A at the end, so we know that it's in the subjunctive, but again, it's a nice irregular one, because they're very tricky. I doubt that you'll be able to. And again, here we have the que, which is giving it away, that we need to use a subjunctive, okay? So look out for that. And when you see, again, what I would suggest, because this is really, really tricky, it's very advanced, and it's probably not something that I would have covered in these sessions, but lots of you seem to actually be quite far along in your Portuguese studies, and it's something that somebody asked me to cover. I think it was Stuart from Scotland, who's here every week. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of answering your questions and kind of catering to everybody, which is tough to do in a short half an hour lesson on YouTube, but hopefully that gives you some notion of when we would use the subjunctive and some example sentences of when we would do that. So, for the first time, I've actually stuck to my time of half an hour. But I will take a look now and see if anybody has questions. Yes, this is the present subjunctive only. Oh, there are more subjunctives. We have the imperfect subjunctive and we have the future subjunctive as well. But yeah, for an introduction, this is when we would use the present subjunctive, okay? We can save the others for another time, but yes, there are different, but there's very specific rules about when you would use each one. So these ones apply to the present subjunctive. So let's see if anybody has any other questions. Somebody said imperfect is a nightmare. Yes, the imperfect subjunctive is a nightmare. You need to think of it in not just applying to the past tense, because I used to think of it as corresponding to the imperfect in the present, and it doesn't. We need to use it in more instances than that. So, for example, if any of those sentences I put them into the past, then yes, I would need to use the imperfect, but it also applies in other moments as well. So, it was really nice to see you all again today. Hopefully these are getting easier, sticking to time. You guys are still enjoying it as well. You can always reach me via Instagram. My Instagram handle is on the screen there, Talk the Streets. I also have a Facebook page where you can come find me, and my website is talktostreets.com. And there's lots of kind of different blog posts in there. I post my videos up there as well. I have a new video coming out every week on Tuesday, so if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, and hit the bell to get notified every time I launch a new video. So I will say ciao. Everybody's saying ótimo, obrigado. Thank you to you guys. It's really nice that you turn up and spend this little half an hour with me. And then this marks the start of my weekend. I still work on Fridays, but I don't teach live lessons. So it's always a nice way to round off the week. So, fiquem bem. Muito obrigada por virem. Até a próxima. Até terça-feira, until Tuesday, when I publish my next video. Ok. Tchau, pessoal. Obrigada. Tchau.